There's something strange your mind does when nobody's watching. You can spend an entire day barely thinking about a person, a conversation, a future version of yourself. Then you get into bed, the room goes quiet, and your brain starts producing scenes. You imagine what you'd say if that argument happened again. You imagine walking into a room years from now and everyone noticing how much you've changed. You imagine the person who rejected you finally wanting you back. Sometimes the scene gets detailed enough that for a moment you forget it isn't actually happening. There's a reason this feels so satisfying, and it has very little to do with imagination itself. Your brain probably isn't giving you the life you want. It's giving you a temporary experience of the person you wish you could be. Once you see it that way, these imaginary conversations start looking different. Here's the uncomfortable question. Why does your mind keep telling the same kind of story? Why do you always win the argument? Why does the person who ignored you suddenly care? Or the people who underestimated you suddenly respect you? Why are you almost always more confident in your head than you are in real life? That's not random. Your fantasies have a pattern, and the pattern can tell you something about yourself you might not want to admit. During the day, you're constantly adjusting to reality. You don't always say what you actually think, or leave when you want to leave, or tell someone when they've hurt you, because sometimes the consequences cost too much, or caring openly would make you vulnerable, or demanding more might mean losing what you already have. So you adapt, and adaptation is genuinely useful. But there's a side effect. The version of yourself you suppress during the day doesn't disappear. It stays on as a possibility. When the outside world finally goes quiet, your mind has room to explore it, which is part of why internally generated thoughts get louder once you're no longer occupied with the world outside. That's when the private theater opens, and you become the writer, the director, and the actor, controlling what everyone else says, how they look at you, when they regret what they did, how the story ends. Real life doesn't hand you that kind of control, which is exactly why the fantasy feels so good. Here's the first twist, though. You think you're imagining the other person's reaction. You're not. You're imagining your own transformation. The person you're arguing with is a prop. So is the applause, the successful career, even the perfect relationship. What you're actually rehearsing is the feeling underneath those things. Respect, security, being wanted, being enough. It's easier for your mind to invent someone finally respecting you than to sit with the possibility that you don't respect yourself enough yet. And this is where it gets a little darker, because sometimes the fantasy isn't about getting something new. It's about correcting something old, a humiliation, a rejection, a moment you stayed silent when you shouldn't have. Your mind takes that wound and builds an alternate timeline where you don't freeze, don't lose, say the perfect thing at the perfect moment, and the other person finally understands your value. The past doesn't actually change. Your emotional experience of it does, at least for a few seconds, because your brain has quietly rewritten the ending. This is part of why unfinished experiences tend to stay psychologically sticky. Research on the Zeigarnik effect famously explored how incomplete tasks can stay more mentally accessible than finished ones, though the modern evidence is more nuanced than the popular version of the idea suggests. Emotional experiences work similarly. When something doesn't feel finished, the mind keeps circling back, not necessarily because you still want the person or are obsessed with the event, but because it hasn't found a satisfying explanation yet. So it keeps asking, what if? What you should have said? What would have happened if you'd been different? And every rerun gives you another shot at becoming the person you wish you'd been. There's a deeper layer here too, because other people are involved, and humans are unusually sensitive to how other people see them. The philosopher René Girard built a theory around this called mimetic desire, the idea that we often don't decide something is valuable on our own. We learn to want it by watching other people want it. Other people's attention teaches us what matters. Their approval teaches us what success looks like. Their rejection teaches us what we think we're missing, which is why your imaginary world rarely stops at just becoming successful or attractive or powerful. You imagine other people witnessing it. You imagine the person who once made you feel powerless, watching you differently now. Sometimes, the real reward was never the thing itself. It was changing your position in someone else's eyes, which reveals something uncomfortable about ambition in general. We say we want to become someone, but we also want specific people to witness who we became. And often, those people are the exact ones we claim we no longer care about. If you became successful tomorrow, who would you secretly want to hear about it? If someone from your past showed up in front of you, what would you want them to notice first? Whatever answer comes up probably still holds some psychological authority over you. And that's where imagination can turn into a trap. It hands you the emotional reward of becoming different without requiring you to actually do it. You can imagine setting a boundary without setting one. Imagine confidence without risking embarrassment. Imagine being loved without ever exposing yourself to rejection. The fantasy gives you the destination without the journey, and that's exactly what makes it so seductive. But there's another way to look at all this. Maybe these scenarios aren't obstacles. Maybe they're rehearsals. Psychologists studying mental simulation have found that imagining future events can genuinely help people prepare for them. Athletes and performers use versions of this deliberately, and people preparing for hard conversations often do too. So the problem was never imagination itself. It's what you do with the information it hands you. If you keep imagining a confrontation, maybe there's something you actually need to say. If you keep imagining leaving, maybe something needs to change. If you keep imagining success, maybe there's a goal you've been putting off. The fantasy becomes useful the moment you stop treating it as entertainment and start treating it as evidence about what you want, what you fear, what you believe you're missing. There's one question that can shift how you see these scenes. Instead of asking why you're imagining this, ask what the scenario lets you feel. That takes you underneath the story. Maybe the argument lets you feel powerful. The reunion lets you feel wanted. The success story lets you feel like you matter. Once you name the feeling, you don't have to keep obsessing over the fictional scene. You can go deal with the actual need, because you can spend years mentally winning arguments with people you never confront and get incredibly good at a game that doesn't exist. That's the real risk. Becoming the hero of your imagination while staying a spectator in your own life. Mistaking rehearsal for progress so gradually that nobody notices, not even you. So the next time you catch yourself building one of these scenes, don't try to shut it down right away. Pause, look at it, and ask 3 things. What am I finally getting here? Who am I becoming? And what am I avoiding in real life? That last one is the uncomfortable one, because the imaginary version of you often already knows what the real version needs to do. Maybe it's saying no, maybe it's leaving, or beginning, or forgiving, or simply admitting you wanted something more than you were willing to say out loud. That kind of honesty can do more than another hour spent inside your own head. Your mind isn't always trying to distract you. Sometimes, it's trying to talk to you in the only language it has left. Once you stop listening during the day, images, conversations, alternate futures, other versions of yourself. So tonight, if your brain starts another movie, when you close your eyes, pay attention to what keeps repeating, not just the plot. Your imagination rarely shows you exactly what you want. It shows you what you believe would finally make you feel different. And sometimes, that difference is the real story. The person you keep imagining becoming might not be someone you need to invent. It might just be a part of yourself you've been putting off. Maybe the point was never to stop imagining them. Maybe it's to finally give that person something to do in the real world. If this made you look at your own daydreams differently, subscribe to Sci Scholar. We go past the surface story and into the psychology actually running underneath it.